projects that Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic candidate, will be elected the next mayor of New York, New York, defeating former New York governor turned independent Andrew Cuomo and Republican Curtis Sliwa. Mamdani's victory marking an historic moment in the city. At the age of 34, he will be the city's youngest mayor in a century. He will also be New York City's very first Muslim mayor. Again, CNN projecting that Zohran Mamdani will be the next mayor of New York, New York. And CNN's Abby Phillip is at Mamdani headquarters in Brooklyn, New York. Abby, a huge win for Zohran Mamdani.
It is a major win from Zohran Mamdani, a candidate that was basically unknown to the city about a year ago and now is now elected mayor. We just heard the crowd behind me yelling, screaming, clapping at the news that you just announced on CNN. This room is really filling up with supporters now. They are anxious, anticipating hearing from Mamdani tonight. And it's been a long journey for many of these supporters who have stuck with Mamdani despite the unlikeliness of his candidacy from the very beginning. In these final days of the campaign, this race has turned sharply negative. A lot of his supporters believe these attacks against him were Islamophobic. They were you hear it there. They are screaming one more time as the race is called and the news is spreading. But these supporters are elated tonight, as you can hear them, by the news, by the opportunity for this city to be elected by someone that, frankly, it's never been elected by, never been run by before. Mamdani is both young, he is a Muslim, he is an immigrant, and he is someone who represents a sharp break.
Breaking news from New York City. CNN projects that Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani has been elected the next mayor of New York, defeating independent Andrew Cuomo and Republican Curtis Sliwa. At just 34, Mamdani becomes the youngest mayor in a century and the first Muslim ever to lead the city. At his Brooklyn headquarters, cheers erupt as supporters celebrate a victory many thought impossible.
From the past, Jake, this crowd is really waiting to see also as the results come in. I know we're still watching those numbers. He is very close to hitting that 50% mark, and there are many people in this room and in his campaign who want to see him surpass that, because what it would mean is that it's not just a minority of this city that Mamdani has won over, but if he's able to get a majority, he might have the opportunity to argue that he has some kind of mandate in the city. I'm going to come to my colleague, Gloria Pazmino, here. She's been covering Mamdani for the last few months. And Gloria, you know very well how this has felt like an underdog victory in the making for Mamdani's supporters.
Yeah, look, this is a candidate who started running out in the primary and was literally polling at 1%. I was having a conversation with someone earlier today who was talking about how hard it was to get press coverage, to care about Zohran Mamdani in the early days of the primary.
Yeah.
And today, you couldn't even get near him from the amount of coverage that he is getting. It was an underdog campaign, and he ran like an underdog. I think that is really a huge lesson of this campaign, no matter what you think of the candidate.
The pace of the campaign really picked up in the last few weeks, as it often does. But, I mean, he was walking across the Brooklyn Bridge at sun up yesterday, I believe it was. And as we were just talking, the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, just walked right past you. She was pumping her fists in the air. She has been one of the New York elected officials that stood by Mamdani, even when he was, being derided as a communist and a socialist by some in his own party, the Democratic Party. And the shadow of
Mamdani's journey has been nothing short of remarkable. Once polling at just 1% in the primaries, he was barely noticed by the press. But tonight, he stands as the face of a new political era. His campaign, built on grassroots energy and progressive ideals, defied the odds. Supporters say he represents something the city has never had: a young, immigrant Muslim mayor who embodies New York's
Donald Trump in this race also is a pretty big deal. Trump weighed in the last few days to endorse Andrew Cuomo. He has been going after Letitia James, a prominent supporter of Mamdani's. He has promised to withhold funds for the city of New York. How big of a factor has Donald Trump been?
He's been a huge factor in the positive and in the negative, right? Donald Trump is weighing in on this race. We know from our reporting that he has been talking about this race even more than the other races that are happening in New Jersey and in Virginia. The Trump threat to cut federal funding is something that Zohran Mamdani and his team take extremely seriously. But you've heard what he has said, that he believes the city currently, under the current mayor, Mayor Eric Adams, has not done enough to respond to those threats. And he says he will do so when he's elected.
All right. So, Jake, as we wait to hear what Mamdani says as he comes out into this room of very energized supporters later tonight, we'll be waiting to hear not only what he says to New Yorkers and about how he is going to govern the city, but also what he says about the very real threat from President Trump that New York will be even more in the crosshairs of his efforts to defund the city and to challenge Mamdani's leadership of the city going forward, Jake.
Fascinating stuff. Abby Phillip and Gloria Pazmino, thank you so much. And it's a historic night for not just Zohran Mamdani, but for the Democratic Party, which has been so demoralized since the 2024 election. We have three big wins that we've projected already in New York City. Zohran Mamdani, it will be the mayor, defeating independent candidate.
This race didn't unfold in a vacuum. Former President Donald Trump threw his weight behind Andrew Cuomo, even threatening to cut federal funds to New York if Mamdani won. The stakes were high, and many viewed the campaign as a test of America's political tolerance. Mamdani's team took the threats seriously, promising to stand firm and defend the city's independence from partisan attack.
Andrew Cuomo in New Jersey, Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill defeats the Republican Jack Ciattarelli. She'll be the next governor of New Jersey, the very first Democratic woman governor of New Jersey. And then in Virginia, the very first woman governor of Virginia, former Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, defeating the incumbent lieutenant governor. Just a big night for Democrats who have had not a lot to smile about in the last year. Anderson Cooper is in New York. Take it away.
Jake, thanks very much. Here with the team. David Axelrod, what is the message from this race to the Democratic Party, or is there a message?
Well, the biggest message should be to the president, I think. It was interesting. I spent a lot of time going over the CNN poll yesterday and the crosstabs of that poll, and you could actually see the outlines of what was going to happen today in that poll, because overwhelmingly people said the economy and the cost of living was their chief concern. They gave today's economic conditions a 28% favorable rating, and they gave really negative ratings to the president's economic policies as contributing to that. And those were ticking time bombs for the Republican Party.
So if you're in the White House tonight and you're seeing this, not just the race in New York, but also obviously in these other states, what do you start to make any changes?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I would do. What I would not do, I would not go out as the president does repeatedly and tell people that this has been a historically successful year and that the economy is strong and it's the envy of the world. And if you're sitting at home and trying to pay your bills and buy your groceries and pay your rent, and you're looking at your kids and wondering how they're going to make it, you don't want to hear that. And if he doesn't believe that, go talk to Joe Biden.
Just New York making history tonight. Democrats are celebrating sweeping victories across the map. In New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill becomes the state's first Democratic woman governor. And in Virginia, Abigail Spanberger secures a groundbreaking win. After a year of political disappointment, Democrats finally have something to cheer about: fresh faces, new leadership, and
because that's what he did, and it was a terribly destructive strategy for him. So I think, look, you had good candidates. These gubernatorial candidates were fresh and had great biographies, and they leaned into those issues. I thought Spanberger made a terrific speech tonight that really was a contrast to the politics that people have become so despairing about. But at the end of the day, you know, when you have the conditions that we have in this country and you're the incumbent president and you run everything and you make a point of running everything, then you're going to get blamed for stuff. And tonight the voters did blame him.
Scott, do you think the White House should be listening?
I mean, look, these are blue states, and Democrats were supposed to win. So I wouldn't overread it. Virginia, in particular, has never been a great bellwether. I don't think a lot of folks had a lot of confidence in the Virginia campaign that was run on the Republican side. And New Jersey is New Jersey. So I would hesitate to overread it. I don't think the concerns you raised are illegitimate political strategy concerns. You know, I think just want to offer condolences to Chuck Schumer. Honestly, what I'm reading here in New York City is that AOC is going to be the next senator from New York after she gets done whooping his rear end in the 2028 Democratic primary. And for his Senate races in 2026, I see the energy in the Democratic Party tonight behind a socialist, and I see the energy in Virginia, Democrats looking the other way on a violent candidate for attorney general who says he wants to murder Republicans and their children. If you think you're getting rid of Graham Plattner in Maine now, think again. This is a terrible night for national Democratic image, given what is happening inside their party. Mamdani is an avowed socialist. It's not what people say that he is. It's what he says that he is. He's now the leader of their party. That's their energy. And Chuck Schumer's
He's the leader of the Democratic Party?
Let's swear. There is no. Who is the leader? Can someone tell me?
He's a life raft for Republicans who have to go on TV and get their asses kicked.
You own this now. You all own this now.
But this victory also exposes deep divisions within the Democratic Party. Critics warn that Mamdani's socialist identity could reshape the party's direction. Commentators predict a ripple effect, from Chuck Schumer's Senate seat to AOC's growing influence in New York politics. For Republicans, it's both a warning and an opportunity. For Democrats, it's a turning point. Either way, tonight marks the beginning of a new chapter in America's most iconic city.